We're back for part two. For you, not for me. I'm going all night, boys and girls. Let's get it going.
Okay, so now we're going to hear about the DPW storm response. Shannon, if you would introduce yourself and our new deputy director, newly minted deputy director as well. But as I mentioned, as you're walking up, people have really set a high bar for you in your in your presentation today. But I will tell you, just in general, working with Shannon is great. She has a lot of knowledge and has helped me understand a lot of complicated water management issues I've dealt with in my district, which I appreciate, and I appreciate you being here today. So I'll turn it over to
Bobble,
you.
that will bobble.
Thank you, Councilor Barth. I'm Shannon Killian. I'm the DPW Stormwater Engineering Administrator. And with me,
Hi, I'm Natalie Van Dongen. I'm the Deputy Director of Policy and Planning for DPW.
as you said, Councilor Barth, really hard act to follow with the White River Alliance and what they're doing. But it's also really important because we feel like it's a good baseline for this framework that we can work in and better understand our waterways and our contribution as well. And how we can, my goal in talking with the team is once you measure something, you can start to move the needle or understand where do we need additional work and what areas are we potentially underperforming in that we have the ability to change. And so some of the things that Jill alluded to, I want to touch on. We've gone back and forth of what specific topic. We are doing some pretty exciting work with DNR that I'd love to come back and share with you all of how we can utilize resources and funding that they have available, land that DPW owns, and make that be a benefit for our citizens and quality of life, because we like to get money to help with these issues as much as possible. So a great preview of what's to come, and I hope to report back to this committee hopefully later this year with the steps that we've taken, and hopefully have some potential projects underway as well. So with that, wanted to just kind of come and highlight this April we've had really multiple rain events, two pretty significant ones. So I wanted to highlight what the Indy DPW team.
Hey, just to let you know, April showers bring May flowers. So yeah, we're gonna get some rain.
Has been doing, and it's really important that this is really a team. We have a stormwater team on engineering that I have the pleasure of leading, and we also have a stormwater team on the operations team. And so I hope throughout this presentation you see how well we work together and how dedicated the staff is in some of these storm responses. I know that's not always
Cleaned off more than 400. Yeah, that's all you.
easy when you see a street that may have
It's
some
so
flooding or that, but the
easy, but
crews
people
were
don't
out
want to
there.
do it because they're
Really,
just lazy.
April 1st through the 17th, we have 300 plus man hours inspecting rain routes. And so those rain routes are where we know that there's been repeat issues. And so our operations team goes out proactively and looks for those to unclog the inlet that maybe gets clogged frequently or other issues, so that we can try and have a more proactive response or catch it from escalating to an area of concern. So that's where we cleaned off 460 storm structures. The operations forestry crew spent 400 hours removing tree hazards that were a result of that storm. We have our channels crew that's going out and cleaning debris from channels that are within the public right-of-way or that we have jurisdiction over. And then also going back and sweeping debris that has accumulated on the road after some of the flooding has subsided. So here you can see pictures of one event. We got a call. Our team went out. They identified the inlet, so you can see they're in the inlet. The inlet is now draining, and then the road was.
That's literally all it took. You had to clean up the crap from the storm drain. That's all it took.
Then specifically looking at April 11th through 12th, our most recent event. During that time period, the operations field investigators received 140 flooding complaints that they went out and addressed. In each township, a wide variety of issues. A lot of times it was removing debris from clogged inlets. So one of the things that I think that we try and share from a DPW standpoint, the property owners are the one that know where their inlets are at. And so having them go out, that's a small action that they can take if they know a storm event's coming in, to just sweep the leaves, whatever it is, off the inlet and put it in their trash can. Sometimes we see it's removed, but then that same debris it's kind of like this revolving circle, right? And so that's something that makes.
That's literally all you have to do. If your storm drain is clogged up, just clean it. Go out there with a trash bag and just clean the crap out, and your stuff won't get flooded. It's just that simple. The problem is there's just so many lazy people, and they expect the government to do everything. It makes you reliant on the government. It makes you a sheep, a cattle, an NPC, really, just so lazy. Be independent. Go out and do something. Fix it yourself. Be a little bit individualistic.
A huge difference in our neighborhoods of if the streets start to flood or not. And so that simple act, especially in some of our older neighborhoods where you may have one inlet per block, well, that one inlet gets clogged and all the water starts backing up.
Ta-da!
And so that's just something that we always encourage our property owners. It's a small action that you can take to really help with any flooding that could occur on your street. So in some cases, we also had a Vector truck where maybe too much debris had gotten. So those are the big trucks that they work like a huge household vacuum where they go out and they'll suck out the inlet or any debris that's accumulated that may be causing the flooding to back up. And then also, again, going back to that partnership, there's some things that they need a capital fix. There's not anything in the field that they can take action on immediately. And so then that comes to the DPW engineering team, and we start to go out and assess those conditions. Is it a private property issue? Is it something that we can build a future capital program around and actually get it into our capital budget? Also, going back to some of those pictures, talked about we had some underpasses where operations went out and swept those underpasses to return those to service after the flooding in those areas subsided. Pictures here are actually of the White River levee just south of 16th Street. And so within the city, and I'll get to some other slides, we have about 40 miles of levee. And I actually probably need to check. I don't know if that includes Indy North that's accredited now or that of what that balance is. But we have a lot of levee infrastructure. A lot of it was built based off of the flood of record, which was the 1913 flood. So it's pretty substantial infrastructure. And so with that, we are here, our operations team is monitoring what the flooding looks like or what the White River elevation looks like at that location. And so you might ask why. Well, this is all part of the city's flood response plan, where we start to look especially along our major waterways and understand what is the elevation there. So what I have here,
oh my
National
God,
Weather Service.
you did it over what, like a 1 week period? Is that what it is? Thursday? Yeah, you did it through the 4th through this. Are you kidding me right now with this? Oh my.
Working on changing or upgrading their website, so that's why it's two different pictures, ultimately saying the same information.
Oh look, after a week,
on the
we had a
82nd Street
problem.
Bridge, there is a stream gauge, and so Jill and the team, the White River Alliance, were talking about data. This is some of the stream data that the city, citizens, USGS collectively pays for to understand what are our river elevations. And this gauge specifically is what we call a forecasting gauge. So on the screen here, you can see
you guys are so dumb.
the solid blue line. That is the observed. And you can see then the purple color is what the forecast is at that location. And so the team is looking at these gauges around the clock to understand what is that forecast.
Sure.
How high is the river going to get? Because that dictates what actions that we need to take. Are we responding internally within DPW to take actions with closing some sluice gates on the flood walls and other things, or is it getting to the scale where we're pulling in our emergency response partners as well, because we have to think of larger potential impacts as well. So that's something that we practice on an annual basis for this reason. And so you can see here, though, data changes as we pointed out, great introduction. This is the White River. We have all of that land upstream of us that it's also getting rain. So it doesn't matter what's happening just in the city of Indianapolis. It's what's happening in that entire watershed is impacting the White River, which comes right next to downtown. And so one of the things that if you look at here, you can see the peak in the initial graph is sometime Friday, 3 p.m. after there initially. I believe by that point in time, we had clear skies in Indianapolis, but the White River was still peaking. And so going to the importance of monitoring that, thinking, okay, we've done the immediate response. Hopefully water that had localized flooding has started to recede, but we still have to be paying attention because we understand by looking at these gauges, both the NORA gauge and the upstream gauges in those upstream communities, of what is still coming our direction to make sure that we are prepared and don't have secondary flooding as a result of the White River. And so as we were monitoring this, you can see the original forecast shortly after the storm started was 13.2 feet at that gauge.
And look, it
we
went
ended
down.
up peaking
Look, it
at
went down.
14.95 feet
After how long?
on that. So just
After
monitoring
2
that
days.
change, that's over
Whoopity-doo.
a foot difference there of understanding what does that do and what actions might we need to take. And then it's also going to the impact of what are the back-to-back impact of events as well. So if you look to the left here, you can see April 1st, the stage was about 2 feet. Then we had the first rain event where we got up close to 11 feet. The river didn't even go back down to the pre-event levels prior to the storm that started later on the 12th. And so all of these factors start to matter. This is where floodplains, wetlands, all of those things, you start to notice a difference. Because even when you have these back-to-back rain events, sometimes the ground is so saturated that even your impervious, your grass, your prairies, and that start to have more runoff because they're fully saturated. So I just wanted to show this because I think that's something that we don't always think of, and I definitely didn't think of even being in this field of like, what do our gauges look like? And hey, it's completely sunny, great day outside, but we still have the White River that's carrying all of this flow through the community, and no one else is probably thinking about flooding, but DPW, engineering and operations, is thinking about flooding to make sure that we're taking the appropriate actions, that we don't have water coming back through an open pipe in our levee into the land and everything like that to make sure that we're protecting the citizens of the city as well. One of the other things, one of the four reservoirs I think that Jill mentioned, the city owns Eagle Creek Dam, and we operate that in conjunction with Citizens Energy Group. And so communicating with them as well, because again, Eagle Creek comes from Zionsville and feeds into Eagle Creek Dam. So we need to be monitoring what's the incoming flow into the reservoir, what's the elevation of the reservoir, what's the number of gates that are open, again, so we can be monitoring what is the reservoir doing and do we need to take any action on the downstream side. So over the storm event, we actually ended up increasing the releases out of the reservoir to help maintain the reservoir level per our standard operating procedures. So there's a lot of things going on in the background that we're monitoring, and starts before the storm event with the forecast, continuing during the event, and then also, when it returns to green, or to not green skies, that would be bad, to blue skies, still looking at, what is going on until we reach back to those normal levels. One of the other things that was mentioned earlier was also all the public outreach and education that are needed as part of this. And so kind of wanted to flip of something else that the team's been up to really this last week in April. And a huge shout out to Gail Boydston, our MS4 coordinator, who helps arrange a lot of these events. Was the team was going out, and we had the opportunity to educate some kids on how to keep stormwater clean. They had tree planting. Other members of the team were around the pond helping kids spot different types of aquatic bugs and that, and talk about how they're indicators of good pond and stream health. And so really, getting out into the classrooms or the outdoor classroom and helping kids understand the impact that they can have and how we can help keep our stormwater clean, so they can also help us move those indicators as well that the White River Alliance was talking about. And then this past weekend, we also had the opportunity to go to the Children's Museum and their Earth Day celebration and set up a booth. And we had a couple special visitors with us there
You should have told them who was
well.
the founder
So we had
of
the
Earth
opportunity. We eventually moved our model on the ground. We realized that we're talking with young kids here, and they love to be able to put in the different type of colored ping pong balls to understand, hey, this is the clean water. This is what we want to go in our inlets. We don't want paint. We don't want leaves clogging our inlets, and where that all ultimately goes is how it goes under the ground out to our rivers and streams. And so really reinforcing that concept with them as well. So that is what I have, kind of a wide range of topics, but just really wanted to get in front of you and share some of the things that the stormwater team is doing, and some of kind of the behind the scenes work that we thought that you all would appreciate as well.
No, thank you very much. There's a couple things. One, just anticipating the higher volume of rain
Whatever.
that's going to be a part of climate change. we've already
Are you like
DPW's already
stupid?
started to plan ahead for that. In
Or
that,
just delusional?
I guess it's just an unfortunate state of events is that our mitigation is now becoming literally mitigation rather than reduction of the causes of climate change. Now we're just trying to deal with the consequences of not doing anything.
Shut
and
up.
one of
God,
those
you are the
consequences
worst.
is that
You're
we
going
are
to be
investing
so
more
lucky if you ever have a
money
debate with
in,
me, because I will just
DPW
destroy
staff
you in a debate
who can
stage.
go and deal with the results of intense weather events. And I think you referenced a little bit some of the trees falling at a greater
Oh, because
level.
they're old?
And the folks needed to go out and deal with the outcome of these weather events and the flooding, especially
Because the storm
can you
drains
just
are
mention
clogged up?
a little bit. I'm not sure who the right person is to direct this to. That we already started addressing this in the last budget, and I appreciate Director
God,
Hurd
you guys are the
thinking
worst.
that through and putting that forward as something that we have to do. And
Herbert, by the way, was more concerned about DEI training than fixing roads, all right? Last one, go check it out.
the council supported that, but just can you tell us how that investment has paid off in real life activity?
Definitely. And so in one of those areas, we're still recruiting for our new senior stormwater project manager. So shout out if anyone knows anyone that has an engineering background and that civil service mindset to come join the team. Definitely looking for someone.
No.
We also just last week started our new, what is now a forestry analyst position to help us go out and do some tree assessment. We're all looking at bringing on yet another person as well to help be a liaison with operations. We have a lot of tree expertise within engineering, and so looking to share that
Do they
across
hug
the
'em?
board with operations as well, so that we can really get a good assessment of what does our public urban forestry canopy look like, and how can we
These
make
people
improvements
are
there
out of their
and better
mind.
manage it, so that if we can, prune a tree earlier in life, that we don't have to cut it down later, because we've done a lot more of that management that was just really a staff capacity type issue as well. So really thinking of what from a manpower standpoint is needed to help us be more proactive with the infrastructure that we currently have as well, and also to start thinking of what does the future look like, and what type of infrastructure should we be installing or can we be installing, looking for those green type solutions where we can fit them in and be able to maintain them as well.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think what I would also just kind of emphasize is the fact that the crews that are doing maintenance, levee maintenance, out and about trimming back trees so they don't fall into the roadway during storm events, they're the same crews that are also going out and responding to those storm events. So
Where's that
ensuring
thumb
that they
ring?
are adequately staffed, that they are cross-trained, that they, we can put any crew out on the night of a storm and ensure that, they're going to be safe. Our
Dude, that's called being an adult. I hate to break it to you, but it's not hard to cut down a tree or trim down branches or clean up a storm drain. Like, it's literal adulting.
residents are going to be safe. That's a huge priority of the department and something that we've been actively investing in.
And thank you. And it's really important. And I've noticed the ability to respond to those has been quick, especially even in times when you're getting a lot of incoming. So I appreciate that. And I know we all do. The other question, before I go to others, is something I've noticed with the sale of the water utility. I think we face some unique challenges now with that bifurcation. I've noticed is challenging because I will have situations. I have a church now along 49th Street that is facing, when they never had flooding before, they're having a lot of flooding. And so when I seek assistance on that, there's always internal
check
coordination that you
the
have to
drains?
do with citizens to help with that. And sometimes I have to help facilitate that discussion. So can you just talk about because we have a bifurcated utility, how do you manage that internal coordination? Because I think that's only going to get more and more needy over time. And is there like an existing process? Is it just a informal process, or is there anything we can do to help with that? Because I've noticed it coming up more and more as these flooding events happen.
Yeah, so
That may be being a hard, unexpected question, but it's just something that comes up all the time. Yeah.
It is very interesting because we have you're talking about the combined sewer areas, right? Where it's the combined sewer is the primary conveyor of both sanitary waste when it's dry and also rainfall and runoff when it's raining. And that's an old, antiquated system. And in some places, we've gone in and we've been able to do separation projects where we had an outfall present. There's some neighborhoods, though, where you look around and you're like, if we did a separation project, where would we go? And you're looking at miles to a potential
Yeah, because
solution.
they're old
And so
neighborhoods.
we have more recently started having some of those conversations of saying, okay, we both have kind of different interests of, obviously, Citizens Energy Group needs to maintain their long-term control plan and the consent decree. We want that as well. That's good for our rivers and streams. And so we've started having more of those informal conversations of, okay, help us understand what the problem is here from a combined sewer standpoint so that we can think of what are potential solutions if there's a solution set that exists to help mitigate the localized flooding that's occurring in some of those areas as well. So there's not a formal process yet, but it's definitely something where we all work in the same area, know each other from going to conferences and that we've really started having more of that dialogue than
How
what we
deal
had
with the
in
poop
past.
problem?
So I hope that starts to yield some results.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I
Natalie.
think just to add, I know that this can kind of be a very confusing breakdown for residents, obviously. Is it citizens? Is it DPW? Is it a private property issue? So our communications team has been working on some social media graphics and just general infographics, and we would be more than happy to share those with this body. We would greatly appreciate your help circulating those. I think as a general rule of thumb, if you see water, call CEG. That being said, if we are in the middle of a rain event and someone calls into the Mayor's Action Center, we all know the good people of the Mayor's Action Center and how helpful they
they're
will be in
awful.
that instance. It is a confusing process, I think that is fair to say, so we would love to do anything we can to help make that easier for you all and for your constituents.
Any material you have that would help demonstrate that would be helpful, because the default position any citizen has is going to be to call the MAC.
Yeah.
Because they have a reasonable assumption that that's the solution, right? Even though we know there's complications. So helping people understand that would be helpful. And if you have the documentation I can post on my website and point people to, I would be happy to do that.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
we will get that to you.
Thank you. Okay, other counselors. Councilor Roberts.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to our DPW team for coming, of course. I'm partially asking this question on behalf of Councilor Boots, who had a neighborhood meeting to run off to. But in our area, we shared the new nickel plate trail, which is obviously very exciting. And with these issues and growing pains, I do not want to let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Obviously, there are issues, but we are very glad to have it. So do not take this as a long-standing criticism of that. But as we mentioned, the April 11th and 12th flooding was particularly bad on the nickel plate. It was just horrific. I mean, there were parts of it that were basically just a pond, essentially, and there were businesses along it that had shut down for the day because they weren't able to get employees in and out of there. And that, again, I've never had any kind of flooding in the past. And we have attributed it, and according to some of my conversations with your colleagues, they have deemed it as likely an outcome of the nickel plate construction.
There you
so,
go.
A couple
Not
questions
climate
on that.
change,
And first of all,
motherfucker.
again, I appreciate you guys being on the scene that day. IMPD also, they had to monitor the situation as well. But obviously, there's concern for the future about that corridor generally. But I guess my question's twofold. First and foremost, why is it happening, right? Again, on the trail, it's ongoing construction, but the flooding has been very imminent, very night and day. But also, is it can get better naturally, or are there things that we need to do counteract it ourselves?
Sounds
Because,
like bad
it's,
planning.
I think there's growing pains expected on bad, flooding days especially, but it's an ongoing issue. We may have to address it as a body. So thank you.
Well, definitely thank you for the question. I know Councilor Boots reached out ahead of this meeting, so I tried to get a little bit more information. As you said, I think the department and the whole city is very excited about the nickel plate trail and what that means from a pedestrian standpoint of both safety and just the opportunity to connect to other communities. That is not, or was not, a stormwater project, so I tried to reach in to get some more information about what's going on, and I also had the chance to speak with Director Herget about that specifically, and he mentioned that he'd also spoken to Representative Hamilton on the topic as well. I do know, as you alluded to, that others in the engineering division and also now stormwater is getting more involved with the concerns that are coming up, that we're looking into it, and we can definitely report back with any information that we gather from that analysis.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Definitely.
Look, he's on his phone.
So I guess in a volunteer role, I sit on the Citizens Energy, Citizens Stakeholder Alliance group for like the last 15 years. Back when Veolia had the contract with the city, and I sat through the transfer over to Citizens Energy. And it brings me, was thinking about it during the previous presentation as to, you know, how citizens is involved, because they do control the reservoirs and so much of our waterways and the combined sewer overflow project, and so much of this they are involved in on a day-to-day basis. And on some level, I feel like they have a lot more resources because they do have a privately funded side to their operations. And so they're able to bring in, I think, different resources than we are as a city. So I was hoping that, as you were talking about stormwater, it also brought up this week, I have been working with DPW on an issue way north side about, and the first question was, is it citizens or is it the city? So I was hoping that you could talk a little bit, just taking it back to a super basic level on stormwater only. Where is that breakdown between what is citizens' responsibility and what is the city's responsibility, just on like a 10,000 foot level? And I know Councilor Barth was talking about that, but like if there are any like drawings or like infographics or anything that you could do to say, you know, it's the old combined sewer as citizens, or however that is, but if you could just explain that real basic for us, I think that would be helpful.
So you're correct. Citizens Energy Group is responsible for the combined sewer areas. And then outside of the combined sewer areas, that is where the city of Indianapolis DPW is responsible. But that would be too easy. We like to complicate things. And so part of that is there's some areas of downtown where there is a storm sewer that was constructed at whichever point for whatever reason to help solve a stormwater issue, help facilitate development. And so that's generally the core where we have combined sewers is Citizens Energy Group, but there's always nuances to that as well. And so that's where a lot of times the engineering team will come in and start looking at the mapping of the GIS, because it's not quite as easy as just drawing a boundary around those. Like an example is we're really excited to have just completed the Keystone South Interceptor project that goes through Washington Park. So where that area previously was all combined sewer, there's now a backbone of stormwater infrastructure that DPW is responsible for to help alleviate some of the historical flooding in those neighborhoods as well. So the 10,000 foot answer is the combined sewer area is Citizens Energy Group responsibility, but there are caveats and nuances to that. So while it's good to start there, we recommend calling Citizens Energy Group initially. They may come back and say that's a city responsibility, and it's one of those areas where a separation project has taken place, or for whatever reason there's just regular storm infrastructure present.
And then secondarily, is citizens responsible? You guys were talking about coming around and sucking out leaves and all that. Is Citizens Energy responsible for that in the combined sewer areas? Or because that's like street level, is that DPW?
That is Citizens Energy Group. We'll complete those tasks within the combined sewer area.
Thank you.
I think they'll probably
Any
get
other questions?
reimbursed if I had
Counselor?
if I had to take a guess.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so I guess that my question was along those lines, is that I had asked previously in the Public Works Committee about street sweeping, and like my area used to get street sweeping 15, 20 years ago and hasn't for a long time, which is, you know, your first slide, that's what my neighborhood looks like every time. So is there, you talk about this inspecting rain routes, is that similar to the street sweeping where that only is done in certain parts of the city?
My understanding, and I'll check with our operations team, that those are where we get a service request or a complaint or a concern comes in on a reoccurring basis, that we go and look at those areas specifically and then add them to one of these routes.
I got it. And then like so the recurring issue, I guess maybe, I would tell you that I had no idea that we've been of the belief that the proactive solution is the street sweeping. It used to be done once or twice a year. And so the problem is that like in your first slide where the street is just mud afterwards, that ends up, that's what happens. The street's just constantly mud, then it dries, then it rains, then almost
Happens again.
immediately
Repeat
the
cycle.
storm sewer grate is covered with the caked on silt, and then it floods, and then somebody gets out there, one of us gets out there and pokes it with a stick till it starts draining again. But then, as soon as it dries, it looks just like that, and nothing ever. So what is the fix to that?
I think that's something that's probably a multifold fix or multifaceted fix, so that's something that we can definitely talk with the director and with our operations team and see.
People
what
need to
that
clean up
solution
their
set would look
crap.
like.
Absolutely. I know that there's been a lot of questions regarding street sweeping, and I think that it would be great if we were able to put together a little bit of a kind of street sweeping 101
Why don't
and
the
get into like the
counselors
history of when we
do it?
reacquired those materials. So we can absolutely do that. And then additionally, I think
But I
one
guess,
thing.
just to be clear, I'm at, like, when that street looks like that and it's all done and it dries up, does the city do anything today? Or is it just, that's just what that street looks like now?
I'm not sure in this particular location. I know in other locations, we did do street sweeping after that, but that's
Okay.
just something that we could, again, talk with our operations team and maybe have a way of understanding where all those locations are at or where those locations are at.
What
so
are the
that
counselors
we can look
doing?
at
What are the
that
wards
would
doing?
look like.
Yeah,
The
it would
trustee's
be location by
office.
location based. I think the one thing I would drive home here is that if residents are able to clean out their storm drains. I
There
know
you
that
go.
We touch on that all the time. We talk about it ad nauseum.
There we
But it does
go.
really make a huge difference.
It's
if,
all
if
you have to
those,
do.
materials have somewhere else to go during a rain event. And it also allows for water to continue to leave the roadway.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks to Mrs. Barth, she's a KIB block captain, and at her direction, she and I together go and clean the ones in our realm of responsibility a couple times a year. But listening to you talk, I'm realizing there are a couple locations also nearby that no one seems to be taking accountability for. So I think that just might be my job, inspired by Councilor Jones. So I would encourage everyone on the committee to become a KIB block captain, or encourage
don't
your
have
constituents
anything
to
by me,
do it, because
otherwise
that
I
builds
would
in
be.
the cadence of cleaning it on the citizen level. Councilor Brown.
Yeah, thank you. My comment was actually going to be on that exact same note, because Councilor Kale, we may as well live in the same neighborhood based on the problems you said. And similarly, like sometimes we'll have KIB block captains who think their only job is to pick up the litter and that don't touch the storm drains, and so there's some confusion there, or just lack of ability, I think. And so I don't know, I always think about like the Book It program for the library back in the day, where you read enough books and you get a personal pan pizza. And I wonder if we can't find some sort of incentive, because it's like good and well to say it's your civic duty.
Yeah,
But no
it
one's going to come
is.
police you or give you a prize for doing it. You don't get a gold star or anything.
here's a
and so
carrot
even
on
if we
a
had
stick.
partnerships with local businesses to
People
like,
just don't
hey, your
care
first
about
pint's
their
on us if you clean a
community
storm drain.
anymore.
Or, you know what I mean? Some like program that would be low cost for taxpayers, but could incentivize
Oh,
and
we just
highlight
need to spend more
this,
money,
like,
that's
citizen
all.
activity that could be really useful. So that's all.
Tommy.
So noted. I don't know of the incentives yet, but I went back to this public outreach slide, because if you'll notice, the center banner is Adopt a Drain, and that's part of the, I'm going to mess this up, Jill, help me, Clear Choices, Clean Water program that the city participates in with the White River Alliance. And we also have the Super Kids. And so with that comes a lot of public outreach and education, as well as just understanding of what's going on. And so, again, those are programs that we're trying to promote as well to help kids, help adults, whoever understands. So there is a website. I think we can definitely share those links with you as well, of other information that if you all use your own social media or that you can share out their website. There's a lot of great information on there as well. So I don't know that you get a pint after you clean the storm drain. That would be great. But at
Or
least
just
that program
knowing, like,
has
I
been
did my
established to where
part.
you can go in and adopt a storm drain, which we would encourage everyone to do.
Thank you both. That was incredibly helpful, especially timely in the spring. We may have to have you come back every spring to remind everybody. But I appreciate you coming, both of you. That's
You got
timely
like 8
and useful
minutes left.
information
What else,
that we will
what else is
cascade
gonna
out into
happen?
our districts, especially if you get us those infographics. So thank you very much.
Absolutely, and it will come with plenty of clearing your storm drain content as well.
And potential new incentives around pizza and/or beers. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you know anyone that's willing to contribute those,
Yes,
those funds or those
absolutely.
incentives,
There's your
please let
call
us
to
know.
action if you have it.
Thank
Okay,
you all
thank
for your
you all.
time.
And
I'm gonna stay put right here.
oh, okay, please. And we have one final presentation. So, and thank you, Counselor. This has been a longer than this was a short one, and I'm gonna set this up. So, number one. Thanks to the committee for your endurance tonight. We have brought a lot of information, but there's a lot of information to share.
You know,
and you may have
you want to know why this happened? Because there wasn't a meeting last month. If there was, this would have been an hour each time.
noted these things build upon each other.
Yes.
And I do, we are going to, I want to set up this recycling RFP discussion, but for context and so everyone understands, because this is a live RFP, there's very limited amount of responsiveness that the staff can give. You're welcome to stay.
Stretch it out.
So my point being, her update will be short because she can't give a much substantive detail other than a process update. Although you're welcome to ask, and I hope the director is welcome to say, I wish I could answer that right now, but I can't. So, and I also want to thank the director. So you know, the ability to create this marathon meeting comes with her. She is a true partner in putting this together and helping coordinate all this and helping me think through the topics and how to sequence them and doing a lot of the coordination on the content. So deeply appreciative of all her help getting this set up today. But with that, I'll turn it over to you to talk about the current status of the recycling and solid waste RFP.
Great, thank you, Chairman. If I may share some good news unrelated to this exact topic, but you may have saw this morning that the President Biden announced Solar for All from the EPA. I think $7 billion worth of funding going to states. And so we are a part of two different coalitions that received funding. Growth Opportunities and local partners here on the ground, ranging from Solar United Neighbors and CICF. That coalition will receive $156 million, and we're focused on putting solar on rooftops of low to moderate income households throughout Indianapolis. Not all $156 million will come to Indianapolis. We'll receive a chunk of that. Additionally, our second coalition with Indiana Community Action Association, this is a statewide coalition, so $117 million is coming to Indiana, and a chunk of that will support community solar in Indianapolis.
Oh my God.
Congratulations, that's awesome.
Thank you.
And I also meant to mention this earlier, maybe you were going to say it, in conjunction with Earth Day, you had a publication today.
Maniac.
Our annual report. So we try to demonstrate a level of transparency with Thrive Indianapolis by issuing an annual report, an update each year. We just released ours. We've begun to do it every year on Earth Day as our tradition. So please check it out. Let me know if you have any questions. All right, so the main thing I have for you today is an update on our solid waste contract renegotiation timeline. It's a very big and long timeline, so we find that it's helpful just to show you what we've done and where we're at in the process. The orange yellow in 2023
forgot about
prior
this.
to that is just a
let me get out of
reminder
here.
of some of that historical work that we've
That's
been
not
doing
my
for
laptop,
a
by
number
the
of
way.
years now. The RFI was released and responses were received in September of 2022. We also conducted a solid waste minimization study with our partner Optum, who came back on board and is leading us through this complicated process of the RFPs. The RFP for processing and disposal is currently open, and we do expect to wrap that up coming this summer. Once that is finalized, we will then release the hauling RFP for much of the same process of,
So it's
pre-proposal
nothing. It's
meetings
nothing.
due, questions are due. This is just the standard procurement process
Yeah, this is
listed out
just
there that, all of our
SOP,
department
BS.
agencies go through. And then with the final deadline of 2026 being when the services will then commence. 2025, end of 2025 is when our current contracts do expire. So you have in there also, beyond all of the complicated procurement pieces taking place, You have that we acknowledge that new engagement and outreach will need to commence around services. So whatever that looks like, it may be new partners, it may be a wide variety of things, but we do intend to conduct outreach to the residents to inform them of what changes have come prior to the rollout in 2026. With that, I'm happy to read it a little more closely with you or just take questions.
Any questions? I think we wore them out.
All right.
Okay,
have
well, thank
anything
you.
you'd like to add
Thank you
to
both.
the-
Oh,
I will add one thing, and that is our department is actually hoping to release a survey for residents to take regarding solid waste services, how they feel about their current services, among
don't use
a
it,
couple
so
of
I
other
don't know.
questions that we should have ready to go. We're hoping by Monday of next week. We would greatly appreciate all of your help circulating that. We want to get as much resident feedback as we can.
All I know
and
is
that
they
is
make a
obviously
giant
something that we
frickin'
will
mess.
continue to lean on all of you for, is we want that feedback. We want to hear what you guys are all hearing from your constituents. So we appreciate
sure. I
that.
think all of our neighborhood groups would welcome receiving that and passing that on. Counselor, one last question.
I did have someone reach out to me about the recycling contract, and all of this kind of in combined. So who can we tell the public to reach out to if they have a comment that they want to share about their thoughts on recycling and or solid waste in the city?
So I would direct them to that survey, actually, once
Okay.
it's live. That will be a great
I know what's gonna happen.
funneled way to
I
collect
know what's
all
gonna
that
happen.
information. Of course, Sustain Indy is the regular go-to as well, that residents can reach out to us. Sustain Indy at indy.gov is our resource account that we also regularly receive questions,
Yeah, and that's
comments,
also,
etc.
yeah, so sustain Indy at indy.gov. Also feel free to share with Zach, I think Zach's the record.
The liaison.
And he will be able to relay those to us as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, with that, I'll thank our friends from the Office of Sustainability and DPW again for their presentations and their hard work, and thanks to you all for your engagement. And the next meeting will not be this long. We are adjourned.
Thank you.
I move for adjournment.
All right, lovely. Well, that was done on Earth Day for everybody that forgot. Wasn't it founded by some like crazy murderer environmentalist? Just Google that. I'm sure you'll find it. But like I was saying before, this whole recycling thing is going to turn into a giant shit show. Mostly because they're going to get the questions from people and be like, hey, polling data shows that most people want recycling. Well, I can guarantee you most people, unless you have time on your hands or know about it or are rich, are going to be taking that poll. Most people like me, we don't even know about it. Like Jessica McCormick, my city councilor, I won't get any information about that poll. So that poll is only for people to manipulate the system. It's really just that simple. And nobody should be having to pay more taxes for recycling that they'll never use. This is just meant for rich people when they don't want an extra thing to have to pay for, even though they will end up paying for it for higher taxes. But, what are you going to do? That's why I'm here. That's why I give this information out, because I want you guys to have it. So when these liberals want to tell you, oh, we just need more government, we just need to spend more of your money, just tell them no. No. Bad. And then wrap up a piece of newspaper and just bop them in the nose like, no, bad. But I'm spent. That was the last city council meeting that I think we'll have for the rest of the month, actually. What is today? Today is the 24th, a Wednesday. This video will be coming out on Friday, but I'm pretty sure that's the last meeting. Actually, let me check real quick. Oh, well, so next week there is the... Did they move it up? Oh, that's May. Oh, yeah. Yep, last one of the month. And then the next one won't even happen until May 13th because the primary is on the 7th, and then it's just loaded. You got 3 straight weeks, Monday through Thursday, of straight loaded city council meetings, except for Memorial Day. So I will be having a witty review video out on Saturday for sure. Lots to talk about. A lot has happened. If you're still watching this video, we're going to talk about the governor's debate. We're going to talk about the new Senator Lakeisha Jackson and just my thoughts on everything. And they talked about me on Rob and Casey a day or two ago about my door hanger. So that's awesome. We'll talk about that. And we'll have a good old time. So, until next time.